Hello everybody, Darren here, and welcome back to Satisfactory. Now, in the previous videos, I've been building a new factory for plastic, rubber, and steel. Bit of an odd combination, but we take the oil, we refine it into plastic and rubber, and then we use the heavy oil byproduct to make petroleum coke, and then we use that to press it into steel when we mix it with some nearby iron, which we bring in via rail. The steel we then press again into pipes and beams, and today, the plan is to add the final machines to do that last part, and then find a way to recycle and export it so that we can send it around the map and then of course power it all on and test it out. Of course, the full build guide is in these videos, but the floor plan and the blueprints are also available to help you along in the description for free. No signups, no Discord, nothing required, just have them. If you like that, or you like these videos, or you just want to be nice today, then leave a like and tell someone that you love them. Let's begin. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Phase 3 of the Coke Factory build. So, as usual, there's a lot to do, simply not enough time to do it, so we're going to get straight into the build. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, we have our to-do list, the first of which is doing Constructors. We got to build out 80. Now, previously, I'd said it was 120, so good news for us. We need 40 less Constructors than I thought, so that's going to save a lot of time, and the output and all the other numbers are the exact same. I just, for some reason, again, made a slight error in the number of machines I thought we need. But it's a good problem. I overestimated, so it's good. Then we're going to have to build an export room. All of the stuff that we've made here, all these refineries doing plastic, rubber, steel, the steel pipes and beams, has to go somewhere. So we're going to build a sort of, I was going to call it a delivery room, but it is an export room. Trucks are going to carry away all this material to a future transport hub. If they've got nowhere to go, we're also going to build an additional awesome sink room just to recycle all of that material and keep the factory running all the time. That's going to require, of course, doing all of the output logistics for everything you see here in front of us. Now, some of the stuff has already had its outputs done, such as the oil and the heavy oil and the petroleum coke, but the Foundry's output and the plastic and rubber refineries haven't done it yet, and of course we haven't actually built the Constructors yet either, so a lot of logistics to do. And then of course just powering it all on, which is the most exciting bit and the most nerve-wracking bit, because knowing that people are following along, you don't want to make any mistakes, and seeing as I've already made a few that are harmless, thankfully, it always makes me wonder, like, have I made any that are not harmless? But we'll see. We'll get to it, I suppose. Right, so as you can see, actually, just really quickly, in the previous episode, I've just done a little bit of cosmetic cleanup down here, added some lights and things, although just realized right now, I'm probably going to have to remove some of these lights. So what we're going to be doing is using a blueprint in the machine category, stacked Constructors, 8 S-pipe, right? So steel pipe, stacked Constructors, 4, stacked on another 4, and there was a secondary blueprint to this one. They keep reorganizing, by the way, when I reload the game. I moved them next to each other, but they seem to just organize alphabetically or something. I'm not too sure. Or, yeah, anyway, I don't know, but they keep shuffling around, so couldn't tell you why they're doing that, because if I move this next to this one, it just kind of reloads and moves it down. Right, so anyway, I was going to use this one, which is 2 stacked on 2, but we actually don't need it, because we can just build 5 of these, and that's how we get our 40, which is going to be great, but for doing the steel beams, it'll be slightly different. So, very quickly, we have 3 rows of foundries, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to be building in the center of those rows and sending stuff up to this next layer. Each row is going to handle one thing, kind of. This row is going to handle all the pipe, and these 2 are going to handle beams, and they'll have a kind of rows of dedicated machines just for that. So let's get this lined up. So we're looking to line up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll have to cut through our light here. Possibly temporarily. You might, refit these lights then when it makes a bit more sense. And then work out the spacing based on where this merger is going to go. So stuff is going to come out of this machine into the center and out to the left from my perspective here. And the reason I'm giving it a good amount of distance, although I'm actually kind of tempted to give it potentially much more distance to be really safe. Would that be crazy? Might be. It might be, it might not. It's difficult to say. Anyways, the reason I'm thinking of doing that is because if you remember the iron factory, and for those who haven't seen it, built an iron factory and we used these same blueprints. So I'll just show it really quickly. This is like these stacked Constructors, okay? So we have stuff going in, stuff coming out, and just like rows and rows of them all over in this iron factory. And a problem I was having, because they were doing screws were relatively high volume. I wasn't using the most high volume recipe you have, but pretty high nonetheless. So it's trying to put out quite a lot onto a belt. Now, even though I had accommodated the correct belt speed for the amount that was going out, what we were finding was that one of the Constructors on the end was just accumulating extra screws that just couldn't get out. And I couldn't work it out. I was like, why is this happening here? Especially when we had several of these same blueprint repeated over and over, and it was just happening on one of them. I was like, oh, that's really odd. They're going to the same place, and they're built in the same way. All the numbers check out. We're not like, oh, you know, the thing that was consuming the screws wasn't like running short or anything, or full. So it didn't really make much sense. You'd have to go back to that episode to really see it. And I think it was actually on a live stream we were trying to debug it. Anyways, long story short, what seemed to be happening is that it was kind of coincidence that the other three were working, or you could say it was a rare occurrence that the fourth one wasn't. Either way, what was happening was the cycle times of the constructors, when they were finishing producing whatever they were, the screws would all roll out at the same time and get bunched up and not be able to get out in time, even though the belt speed was all correct. So, to avoid that, what you do is you have longer belts leading out. In fact, the ideal situation, let's say it does 20 per minute, you should be able to have enough space for those 20 kind of per minute at least on the belt running in front of it, so that it could continuously pump stuff out without the others getting jammed and jamming up the main bus belt. It's a weird thing to explain. I'm still struggling with that realization, because it kind of changed everything I knew about the game once that happened. And I've got over 1,000 hours. It's only happened once, so I'm gonna say that's quite rare that would happen. But it's something I'm now trying to just plan for, which is let's just give them a bit more space on their belts moving out. That's all, and that should be okay. Right. So hopefully, with that loose explanation in mind, we can just pop this in here now. Ah, sorry, no. We're going to go further back than that. So let's get our merger. Yeah, what'll I do? I think I will play it safe. Let's try play it safe and move it all the way to the center over this side. The reason I'm being so hesitant, I'm just wondering, does that block anything on this side? No, but it does clutter things quite a lot. But I think, you know, we're going to have to just deal with the clutter and try to get things a bit more efficient, which would be the right thing to do. Right, well, anyway, in that case, then, our light will be able to stay in place in future, which would look nice, hopefully. And this is just a temporary placement for a second, so we can see this comes up all the way here. I just want to make sure... it's not quite right. I was thinking. So there we go. Alright, bring that all the way up. So that's in the center of this foundation, so we can just see where we need to align to. Let's just close that off for now. Get our blueprint, stacked constructors with the pipes. So I'm going to do the pipes on the far side first, this side. And that's nice and lined up there, so that's the input right here. Alright, so we'll place that in. Switch to blueprint modes, and just run down the line. Doing 5 in total. And that's a total then, whoop, almost fell off the edge, of 40 constructors. 20 on the bottom, 20 on top. All good. Now, unlike the Iron Factory blueprint, I've made slight changes to it. I've added a bit more of the scaffolding in. I've added extra bigger lights, because it was very dark in that factory to kind of see what was going underneath. Especially since we're going to have more walkways here. So I just felt like they needed their own lights to really shine on the machines and see what's going on. So let's work out some of the numbers on these really quickly. So these are doing steel pipe. It's just the standard recipe. As far as I know, they're only... I don't know if there is an alternate recipe for steel pipe. But anyway, 30 steel ingots in, 20 steel pipes out. So we've sort of separated into, you know, 20 up there and 20 down here. So 20 times 30 is 600. So we could have a main bus belt here, all merging of 600. Yeah? Or sorry, all splitting, because this is the splitter side. But on the other side, it would be even less. It'd be 400, because the output is 20. So it'd be 20 times 20. The output of pipes per row is 400, right? So 400 on the top, 400 on the bottom. That gets us our 800 that the total the factory is going to be able to do. Anyways, for that, we would need a Mark V belt, at least to do the inputs, which I don't have yet. So what I'll probably do is we'll temporarily, I say temporarily, it'll be for a while until we come back to the factory, we'll have to split the groups. So each foundry is doing 100 out. So we can very easily split them to say, like, okay, instead of 600, so, you know, we'll go halfway down the line, so the first 10 machines, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, so this one here, split that, and somewhere here, if we make a 2-layer foundation, a 2-meter foundation, we can put in a floor hole here, and a floor hole here. We can feed that, and we can feed up here the same. I'm just going to get rid of this belt. Right. So that's going to have to be a Mark 4 as well. And so will that. So basically, that's the temporary part of this build. That could be removed in future. It's just to say that I don't have a belt fast enough to feed the entire line in a manifold way. And some people probably wouldn't even want to do it that many machines in a manifold anyway, which I could understand. Sorry, my phone just went off, and then I just realized also we need 2 outputs, not just one. So basically, one would be going that way, and one will be going up into the top layer. Something like that. We'll do it in the output logistics section, but it's just to know where we're placing things and why we're placing them the way we are. Now, I've also noticed that these are Mark III belts. They should be Mark IV. So again, another little blueprint error there on my part, but we'll make them Mark IV and connect them all together. But that's just the first row of placements right now. We'll just do the next rows, and then I'll just get to the logistics straight after that, pretty much. All right, it turns out I have what I need already, so we're good to just continue building. So again, with this framework in mind, we'll have to build from here. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's basically placing them in a line here. And we're going to be using the stacked constructors S-beam. Now this time we only need 20. So we'll have to rotate that around. There we go. Make sure it's in line with the foundations, just to make life easier for ourselves. Seems all good to me. So there's 8. So that's 4 on top. And then we'll need another 4. And then we'll need a 2. So to get to the 2, we just go down to the... Oh, is that pipes? No, that's beams. There we go. So beams 4. There we go. And that should just lock in and be basically the same, I hope. I'll just make sure they're correct. Yep, they're doing steel beams. So the beam constructors, they take twice as much as the pipes. So it works out the same in terms of the volume that needs to go in if we just half the amount of machines. So we'll just do that again. Just one last row then over here. So this is the only thing that's not a problem really, but it means that we obviously have to come out further if we want to keep the consistency with the length of belts that go across. It's 1, 2, 3 foundations. It's in the center, so it's 1, 2, 3 in the center. So that means it's this row that we're dealing with. And then we want to line it up so it's in the same place. So beams. Aha, so now I'm a bit short. So I'm just going to go get a little bit more material and then finish these ones off. So it should be easy enough just to line this up. Same area. It's in line with the other blueprint, right? Yeah, we got our green line. I was just checking for it. All right, we'll commit to that one. Just add the next one in the line and then we'll switch to the other type. All right, so that is all of the constructors now placed. Pretty quick. Blueprints make life a lot easier. All right, so now the constructors are done. We can mark that off the list. And then the next thing is going to be doing the export room. So I'm just going to create a basic big room that extends all the way over here. Right, something like that's fine for now. So basically on the edge here, which means it's directly above where the kind of mini oil room is, I'm going to have 4 roads coming in separately. So we'll do concrete all down the line here. And I think I worked it out that it needs to be about 17, and then we'll take the turn. So we're looking at getting to there. Wow, it's pretty far in, but yep, that's what we need to do. Okay, so a bit peculiar looking, but we've got 4 strips of asphalt separated by 4 strips of concrete that lead into the factory. The idea is each of these are roads that lead in, and then they all meet and merge in a road at the back that then moves out to the right, and that will circle around and move back out then onto the main road that's going to be out there. So that's the idea, and they're all going to have their own truck station. So that way they're all kept nice and separated, and hopefully they don't bump into each other too much. So I suppose the idea is going to be doing something... I think a little bit of a buffer at the end here would be good. So do something like this, and just shift it along. So there we go. So that fits in nicely. So that'll be 1, and I'm just going to layer 4 of these, or 3 more behind this one. So that's the idea. Very simple. So you just drive in, you hit your truck station, and then you go out, and then you turn to the right. Now, there's only 4, so the traffic shouldn't be too bad. I don't think we need to go any wider than this. They're not overtaking each other or anything. The idea was to get them to kind of form a more orderly line behind each other. Trucks tend to recognize the truck in front of them and slow down, so they should form an orderly line out, even if all 4 arrive at the same time. Even if we have 8, because by then it should still only be ever 4 hitting out at the same time, because the other ones will be you know, getting their stuff from the truck station itself. Alright, so we'll lay the next ones down just after this autosave. Alright, autosave out of the way. I just also cleared a big patch in the ground for these stations to plug in right behind each other. So that's 2, 3, and I guess we'll have to just get some orientation on it. 4. Alright, so 4 truck stations. Rubber, plastic, steel pipe, and steel beam. That's what this factory is going to export. Now in future, it was brought to my attention that this factory would be really suitable to also do encased industrial beams, because you need concrete. There's a load of concrete just out there by the water. It's hard to kind of see, but it's just behind the arches, near where that train station is. So you could just feed up the concrete, bring it down here into the factory, and we could do a little bit of combining with either the pipes, the beams. You could do either and get a lot of encased industrial beams out of it and have another little export truck station here. Might do that in the future. It's just a little extra headache and thing to think about. We'd have to change the train station just slightly, adding extra platforms. But it would be a good upgrade, I think. I just really wanted to get this done in 3 parts, and that would pad it out a bit more than I had anticipated. And also, I don't even know when I'm going to use necessarily a lot of this stuff for. So once we get a bit further in the game, then I can kind of see, like, okay, if I need X amount of encased industrial beams, this might be a good candidate of a factory that we could pull that in from, depending on how much steel is left over, if that kind of makes sense. Right, so anyways, these are now all in place. I thought it was worth mentioning the road, right? So there's a copper Caterium factory here. And at the base of that floor, right, the base of the room, the building we're looking at here, so obviously not the water, the basement, but the ground, not the ground floor, goddamn, English is tricky. The first floor that's suspended here is basically where the road height is, so right in line with my crosshair now. And that will probably come out to the very edge of that building and then straight down along this line and maybe thread the needle through that archway as we go onto the desert. I imagine that's where the road's probably going to go. So trucks are going to then branch off and choose which lane they go into, depending on what they're trying to pick up. And then they'll all leave out the same way to go to a transport hub, which will probably be just right up there in the desert. So not too far from here. Whereas there'll be another one down in grassy fields. And they'll be connected via rail. That's the idea. Okay, so that's not the export room done. Well, it kind of is, actually. Yeah, I suppose the room basically is done. Now, these blueprints came built in with feeding fuel up from the bottom. I don't think I'm going to plan to do that. I think the transport hub will have the fuel in it, not this place specifically. So the trucks that arrive here should already be fueled. They're not getting their fuel from here. They're just getting the items. One last thing to do then is just to check that these vehicles are loading. Yep, that's all well and good. So haven't done it yet. We'll do the output logistics next now. I suppose we'll just tick that off. That's basically export room done, I suppose, even though we haven't done the cosmetics of it. But what we'll have to do is have some sort of input that goes up and over and then feeds across so that there's clearance for the trucks that are coming out this way. Very last thing I'll probably do is just add a little bit more of the road barriers around just to complete the look. Alright, so there we are. We have lanes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we've got little arrow signs just to let us know where we're supposed to go. No left-hand turns at certain points here, no right-hand turns if you're on the main line. Just going forward and to the right and then all the way back out, ideally. Alright, so that is the export room kind of done, I suppose, until we put a roof on it and cosmetics. Next thing is going to be doing all of the output logistics, so we have to start... I guess we'll go to the very base of the chain and work our way all the way up to the end to make sure that all of these truck stations are getting what they need. Right, I've just been trying to figure out a good layout for this. It's difficult, at least for me. So basically, I've got the rows all hooked up now, right? So every one of them is just mergers, and then this is traveling along. It merges again onto this row, so that's 200 per row, so 200, plus another 200. So now we're up to a belt of 480, so 400 traveling along. And then here we've got an additional 200. Now because we don't have Mark V, this is going onto a separate layer. So now we've got 400 on this one and 200 on this one. And that's fine. You know, we're just going to sending it into the 2 inputs of a truck station. So we don't need to make it even or anything like that between the two. It's totally fine. But I just need to find a way to elegantly, somewhat elegantly, send it upstairs. So what I'm going to try and do is this. Let's see if this can work. So we need a Mark IV belt for the top one, because that's 400. And just a Mark III for the bottom one, because it's just 200. Okay. So the way I've got it is this top merger goes out the left, and the second to top merger goes out the right. So what we can do is just grab this Mark IV, bring that down, reverse it so it takes the input. And this one's Mark III. Reverse it so it takes the input. Just get rid of that bottom bit now. So hopefully that's kind of clear. It's just two belts, one of 400, one of 200 going in, and then two separate belts take it upstairs, and then we can figure out what to do with them. Now they have to go into awesome sinks first. Now the ideal situation here will be that setup is going to be the exact same here, just merging onto this one and going upstairs in the same way. But I'm just going to do this one first, and then we can just copy it for rubber. The outputs are the same, 600 per minute. Right, so thanks to that autosave, I forgot to hit record again, so I've just done a little bit of extra belt work that I want to re-explain. So for those who don't know, I'm having recording issues where every time the game autosaves, my recording just stops now. I don't know why. And the same with tabbing out. This has never happened before. Some people were ragging on using NVIDIA's GeForce Now recording software. It might be bad, I don't know. It's served me well for like 6-7 years. I used to use XSplit, I used to use OBS. I just found having your recording direct on the GPU has the least amount of impact and gets the best image quality. I still believe that. But anyways, it is having problems, so maybe I'll consider changing things because I keep losing little bits of footage every now and then. I'm trying to get better in the habit of just knowing, hey, autosaves happened, don't forget to hit record again. It does flash on my screen saying, hey, your recording stopped, I just forgot. Anyways, so what I've just done is here, our row of 20 steel pipes, it's already like all merged up onto one row for me, and so is this bottom one, so I just pulled both belts in this direction, looped around, took a left turn, and now I've got two of these belts rolling side by side. So the steel pipe are always going to be two belts because it's 400 and 400 for a total of 800 per minute. So they'll always need two belts. Whereas the steel beam, this section here is 150. That's 150. And the same with this one and this one, right? Sorry, this one. So their outputs are quite small. So 150 and 150 is obviously 300, and the same on that side. So they're just kind of merged together, and then we've got two belts of 300 traveling along. In the future, like I said, that could all be merged onto one belt. But for now, and probably I'll just, I guess if it works, we'll just always leave it this way. But if you're building in the future and you have Mark V belts, you could just do it on one. Right, so the idea was anyway to build out a little walkway that just continues out this way, and then create floor holes and feed them down into the truck stations rather than the way we're doing plastic and rubber, which come up from below. But the very same concept. We want to keep the same height, keep it looking nice and consistent. So I've already done one. We'll just do this one now, I suppose, on camera. So we've got 5 stackable poles right here. This is where the floor holes are going to have to go. And we're going to put one right in the center and one just next to it. Send for that. Just going to use Mark 1 right now while we get this in place. And then we can update it to be Mark IV after the fact. And this would have been good to blueprint had I designed it beforehand, but I hadn't. So this is why we're just doing it now. But this truck station would have been nice to have this bit baked into it. 3, 4, and 5. So we go up to 5 there. So for our merger now, I want this going out in front of me. But let's go up to 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we can get rid of these stilts now, the supports. Then we have another one here that's going to aim out to my left. Just move it just past that ladder a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can get rid of those now. Okay, so that should be everything in place now. We just hook this up together. Connect that in. Now it's just a case of adjoining these across from each other. Right, so that's the top layer done, and then the bottom layer is connected from there. Alright, easy as that. I guess we don't need the mergers there thinking about it, but it's just the way I've done it. You could just go straight into the elevators, right? I guess I just found it a bit easier doing it that way. Alright, so that's that done. I'll have to make that Mark 4, but I'm just a bit low on beams. I've got some downstairs, so I'm just going to run and grab them, then update it to Mark 4, and then hook up the rest of the inputs. Oh my god. Alright, so that's all of the steel pipe and steel beams belts, I believe, hooked up and being sent into their truck stations. Now, the bit I didn't do is the awesome sinks. But that's okay. This is what this area is for. So the reason I have just little areas here, I was hoping to have smart splitters break off and go behind them so we can go into awesome sinks that are going to be around this way. So now that I've already done one, I feel like I'm just going to do this one right here. It's actually pretty quick. Things lined up really nicely. So just using a standard splitter just to get our bearings. Just going to line up on the center of the foundation underneath this. Switch to a smart splitter. Do 2. Get rid of those 2 belts and just redraw them. Just so that we know we're connected incorrectly and don't have to worry about snapping onto an existing belt or anything. Just, I prefer not to do that generally, because once something goes wrong once or twice in the game for you, even if it is user error, I tend to just avoid it than doing it that way. And I get stubborn and just do it my own way. Right, so we've got a smart splitter here on the bottom. Anything can go through the center, that's whatever, that's fine. On the right output, we're going to put overflow. For the one on top, we're going to say left output will be overflow. So that's fine. Then what we do is we grab our conveyor lift, send it out that way. Slight mistake, this just actually has to face straight out to the right, and this one has to face straight out to the left. I was aiming them along the seam, which was incorrect. Anyways, so being on the seam means that we're going to be in the middle when we turn, so we just need to get another one of these. Make sure they're kind of lined up with each other. They're actually perfectly aligned, which is really, really nice. Didn't even mean to do that. But their spacing is perfect. I never noticed that before. It's obviously 1.5 foundations exactly, because this is right down the center. There's nothing down that one, and then this one's right down the center. So yeah, perfect. Love it. All right. Oh, actually, sorry, it's 2 foundations, but like the way the output is lined up, it's on the inside. Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, so yeah, so now this can just feed straight in, and this can feed straight in. So that's our 4 resource sinks in place. We need 4 more now. Alright, so we're going to try and do it even quicker now. So build this all the way up. We've got a smart splitter. Again, do it there, do it there. We're going to cut this belt, draw them again. Just so that we're totally sure of what's happening. And hook them back up. Right, get rid of the suspensions. The one on the bottom, we're going to aim it out to the right, so the overflow goes out to the right. The one on the top, overflow will go out to the left. It's left. Then we're going to grab our lift, Mark 4, aim it right out. Aim this one right out. We're going to grab an awesome sink and just hold control and snap them to each other. Mark forward out of our minds. Send them in. How good is that? How good is that? Alright, let's do it again. And then this can just go straight in there, but this one's just going to have to curve ever so slightly around. Oh, I'm out of beams. Okay, I'll just use a Mark 3 belt then for a sec. It's 1, 2. There we go. Not a big deal. Slightly big deal, but not too bad. Overall, looks pretty good, I think. I mean, it looks kind of messy when you just zoom out like this, but each truck station itself, pretty self-contained, just 2 belts feeding in all the time. 2 belts coming down from each whatever group it is, whether it be steel pipe, steel beam, plastic, or rubber. Almost completely done now. Just have to fetch more beams, but also then downstairs. I need a better way to get up and downstairs, by the way. But downstairs, then I just need to hook up the rubber, because we did plastic, but I didn't actually do rubber, and it's going to mirror how plastic is done, so it'll be coming in from the left. I'll just see if I have what I need. I think I have. There we go. We've got some beams here. Alright, so with the truck stations now in place, the awesome sinks in place, and all the logistics hooked up for sending all the material out, the only thing left is the logistics just for the foundries. So the steel ingots themselves have to be sent up to the first floor holes we created today, which are these ones. So I'm just going to get to work on that now. I'll do one side, and then we can kind of maybe do another one on camera once I've figured out exactly how it's going to go. Alright, I've got it worked out. It's pretty easy, actually. It's just it kind of looks a little messier than I would like it to, but what we do is just start with a merger at the bottom here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever it is, to get it to the height that I'm currently standing on. And just do that for every output. The outputs of these foundries align with the inputs of the other ones in the next row, so it makes it pretty easy to know where to line up. Just do something like that, and then something like this. So we're only, remember, merging 6 in total, with 3 on each belt. Just like that. Then what we do is simply just cut away the entire midsection. Obviously, I don't know if other people do this, but that's just how I line things up. I just stack tons of merges, and then when I'm happy with the height, I'm like, yeah, cool, and then I just get rid of the middle bit. Some people have said that there's other ways of doing it, and you could do it in blueprints and things, but I just find that nice and easy and quick. Alright, anyways, so we have a Mark II belt. Remember, it's 100 per minute, so 120 per minute coming out. It should be totally fine for each of these. So they merge into here. And then we need a Mark IV connecting them together. So same on the bottom. Mark II, and Mark II. And then Mark IV, connecting these guys on the bottom. Right, so ultimately then, we're trying to aim for the floor holes. So we just get the nearest one to go for the top layer, which is a little tricky to see. About, I want to say it's one lower than that. Oh no, that looks right actually. In you go. Next one then goes all the way down to the ground. And that just goes in. So that's it. That's how you do it, right? That's how we send the outputs, giving them lots of space, hopefully lots of room on the belt to get everything they need to get out before it flushes onto the sort of, quote, main bus, and it goes upstairs. So obviously doing this side is the same, it's just in the opposite direction, so I still have to do the floor holes for this one. That one actually just plugged right in, which is really nice, and then that one just goes down to the bottom. Cool. Alright, I have to change the color of the lights as well. So yeah, so that's one side done. There's 2 more rows to do now, so I'm just going to get to work on these 2, and then we should be ready to power everything on. Anyway, what it would mean is reversing the direction of these and trying to send them up here, but it's really difficult because the floor holes happen to be right above where the mergers would be and the outputs. So I've made the executive decision to make life easier. We have to do one thing that's a bit awkward, which is reverse the direction of these 5 machines. So, you know, we built them with blueprints and they were all heading out that way in a manifold style, but now I've flipped them where they're going to be going to the left. So they're basically pushing down this way, and then at the halfway point we don't have floor holes anymore. Instead, the floor holes will still be able to be placed over on the right hand side, thus lining them all up together with the foundries. I think overall that's a bit nicer. It just means that this blueprint isn't really as good as it could be, because it's almost like you need to have this, but a reverse direction version. Don't know if I'll bother. I just think you should know that you should just reverse the direction yourself. It's not that difficult. You just place a merger on top of each one, or splitter, rotate it the other way, and then just connect them again, you know? Right, so just to show what I mean a little bit more clearly, what I have to do is basically cut 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of these belts. We then have to, as a way to easily replace things, we can just rotate these around, yeah, facing that direction. Sorry, it reversed it for me and confused me there. Then we just get rid of everything on the bottom. Yeah. Don't need the floor hole here anymore, or this one, right? So if that was built earlier in the episode, it's probably been either edited out or sped over. So now we can just put in the splitters underneath, facing the correct way, and get rid of the ones on top. So that was just to kind of get the initial positioning correct. Now we can put back in the Mark I belts connected to the constructors directly. And then Mark IV to connect these up together. Alright, so that's that. So the benefit of doing all that is that we can go over here, cut this away, cut this away. If we look straight down, this is where our mergers are going to go. So I might just fall down here real quick. And we'll just go with a 2 meter over there. Right, so now we need floor hole, and it has to just match what's gone in there. So it's on the seam, so easy enough. So we just go in the center of both seams, like so. Is it in the center? Yes, it is. Nice. Okay, cool. That makes life easier. And then we just mark 4 until we're lined up. Reversed, of course. This one goes down all the way to the bottom. Ooh. Maybe I can move it over, actually, because it doesn't seem like... And then bring that down to here. This could then just rotate to there, and that could then go in like so. So a bit weird, but it allows me to get up and over that kind of thing. I don't think that has to happen on the other side. Alright, so it's Mark 4. In you go. Okay, so they're connected. At least that's done, and they are hooked in. So I haven't done the outputs for this side yet. Oh my god. Alright, there's so much going on. Or just building wise. Alright, so Mark 4 and Mark 4 all the way down to the bottom. There is no doubt in my mind I've forgotten to do something here. They need to be hooked up to power. Not all of them have power. That's one thing I can think of. But apart from that, I think that might be all the logistics now done. Ah, there is one very last thing for logistics, which is actually getting up to that floor and making sure it has a corresponding lift out the top. Which it seems like I'm maybe just about out of beams, actually. So I'll just do Mark 3 for a moment. Oh, I can't even do that. I'm really out of material now. Mark 1. Yeah, so I just need to upgrade that one. And the same has to be done on this side. Whew, alright, so I'll just go get some more encased industrial beams. I'll have to make a journey for that one. I'm also going to go fetch some more. Actually, I've got a decent amount of oscillators, but I want to install more lights because it's so dark in there. But it'd be nice to keep global illumination on, so the clean ceiling light, just list a few of them. I suppose we'll probably need about 20 or 30. So I'll just list about 30. I've got tons of copper sheets here, but yeah, steel and encased industrial beams. Going to have to make a run for that. And then we're on to powering it on. I think that is output logistics done. Just driving through the parts factory, I noticed all the trucks are like really well organized. They're normally all over the place. Oh, I think actually this one might be... he's having an issue. But hey, that's pretty good otherwise. 90% of them are in like where they should be. So that actually looked quite cool driving through there. And I like seeing my own little trucks, you know, obeying the rules of the road, staying in their lanes, not having any issues as they drive around. Whoops, sorry. Speaking of obeying rules of the road, I should probably look both ways, huh? Felt like it was kind of a giveaway situation back there. But yeah, man, I love it, you know? As much as people hate trucks because they can be finicky, when you get them working, they're great. I love them. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth is upon us. We're about to power this bad boy on. I haven't done this, haven't even tested whether or not all the wires are connected to everything. We're just going to run around and troubleshoot it as it happens. I put in some makeshift lights. I didn't sink them into the ceiling just yet because I'm not entirely sure in the final placement. We'll do that on the cosmetic pass. But it should brighten up the place for us to get started. So I've got a switch here that I think controls everything. Okay. Looks good. We got oil pumping. That's the first stage. 1800 oil is on the go, is on the move. Now, that's going to take a little while to fill, right? All these pipes got to get filled. The refinery's got to get started. And once the heavy oil comes out, if you remember from the first episode, we are going to be waiting on these pipes to fill up before we release the valves. And then we've got another set of valves if we wanted to let the buffers fill even further. Or we could just let it flow straight through once we're happy with that. Now, I think while we're waiting for oil to get moving, I'll just check on the different actual oil pumps that are working. So that one's obviously going right now. I'm sure that's fine. If this floor is powered, then it's probably good. And we can actually see a few flickering green lights already as the oil makes its way into our plastic and rubber refineries. Sweet. All right, looking good. So what we're going to do is hop upstairs. That one's working as well. Just make sure that everything is hooked up here as well. But it will take a while before we hit that 100% threshold. One of the annoying things is that I'm not going to be able to test the throughput straight away. Like, I won't know. Are we definitely achieving 600 plastic, rubber, and so on and so forth, right? You know, with steel and 800 steel pipes. I guess we could always check the machines to make sure they hit 100%. I suppose actually that's kind of the best way to do it, right? But I won't be able to really tell because we're not using it anywhere. So these ones look like they are missing a connection. That's okay. They're so late in the chain, it doesn't really matter. we'll just pull out a wire here. And just bring it downstairs somewhere. Cool. Alright, that should give them the power they need. I really need a better way of getting up now. I'm looking forward to doing the cosmetics of this place a lot. But I think the layout's now sorted and set. So I'm not too worried about it. Alright, looks like the connections are good. I'm seeing yellow lights all the way down and up on top too. That's what I was kind of worried about, that someone would sneak past me. But now the next thing we're going to be troubleshooting is just whether or not all my belts are hooked up correctly. So, at the moment, I actually haven't set up the trains to go back and forth. The mining outpost out in the distance was running power, if you remember before, because we had the trains running power. So they've completely filled up with iron ore, and then I removed the train to prevent any deliveries. So we'll put a train down in a moment, but it'll just be interesting. Oh, we can actually see some of the plastic already making its way up, but it's stopped. Well, there's our first little issue, our first hitch. Oh, are the awesome sinks not on? Oh, that's the case. Oh, right, that might be why. So one of the belts just stopped first because it was the first one to get full. Let's just, yeah, bring this to here or something, and just bring that all the way down. So the truck stations aren't receiving right now because they don't have power. Plus, I don't have any truck routes or a road set up, so that's fine. Just let them sit there doing whatever. But really what I'll be keeping an eye on is all of this stuff working. Yes, that's what we like to see. Good, cool. So they're receiving their plastic and their rubber. Why does this say Mark III? It just is. Suppose we can make it Mark IV? Maybe I ran out of material. So how's the oil flowing? Because we're seeing a lot less rubber. Well, here's a bit of a bottleneck. It's a Mark I lift. Let's go. Release the rubber. That's what we like to see. Now the other rubber is flowing just fine, coming from the other directions. That's good. Although, that's Mark I as well. That should be at least Mark III. So fix that. Cool. Alright, two little bottlenecks fixed right there. This one seems to be totally fine. Actually, a lot of them seem to be powered on pretty quickly. So, we did the math on it before. I don't remember exactly how much right now, but once we see that these pipes are totally full and are starting to backfill the machines, then we're able to release the valves. So not until the heavy oil residue gets full here. Right, the first phase of this build, this is the third phase, so 2 videos ago, when we built this area, I went through and explained why we're using valves and how everything's going to get backed up. Not going to go through it as in-depth as I did there, just to not waste any time, but basically, with this valve being locked, we're now accumulating heavy oil residue in all of the pipe segments. So every segment has a little bit of inventory space, and it's just, at the moment, getting totally backed up, which is great. And then eventually, the machines themselves will get backed up. Right, we're starting to see that already. There's a buildup of heavy oil residue. Once the buildup is like 100%, it's 50. 50 is the max, right? So once we get to 50, then what's going to happen is crude oil will start building up because the machine won't be cycling anymore. It won't have anywhere to send the heavy oil residue, so it won't fire. But it will still receive the crude oil. Once the crude oil fully maxes out, then we release the valve. And that will allow all of the machines to run at 100%. Right now, they're doing pretty good. There's green lights across the board, but we're getting a little flickering on the ones on the end every now and then, which is to be expected. But this way, and remember, our valves are just controlling the 3 rows, so we don't have to worry about, like, changing multiple valves or going crazy or anything. I think it's just 2 valves in total, or many valves, I shouldn't say multiple. So we only have to change 2 or 3 or something. And then that's it. That should be 100%. So that's going to be the goal, you know, checking the productivity rating and making sure everything's okay. But things are flowing right now and looking good. Although we've got a lot of yellow lights on this row. So what's going on here? Oh, they're full up already. Well, wouldn't you know it? Alright, that looks like it's it. The plastic refineries now have all gone into standby. Their inventories are full, so they can't send anything out. Therefore, they can't cycle. So the way we'll kickstart them is we'll release the valves. Now we can see a nice big thick flow rate flowing into our buffers. Now our buffers are closed on the opposite side as well. So we still have control of when we want to release into the petroleum coke machines. But it won't be long. I'm just going to let this fill up for a little while. Maybe get to about halfway and then we can decide to let it flow through. So if we head back down here now, we should see a 300 fill rate. Yes, there we go, 301. That's what we like to see. That's because all the machines produce 300 per minute, but also the pipes were full and it's a Mark 1 pipe. So either way, filling them up would have given us 300, but it should stay at 300 hopefully forever. That's the idea. And then conversely, on the way out, it should stay 300. Now, it's going to be a little stop-starty here at the beginning because it is just a 300 pipe, and we're trying to consume 300 in all these machines. So what's going to happen is it's never going to do it because it's going to always have these problems reaching the last ones as their inventories constantly take away from the pipeline. So it's not going to be achievable unless we block the outputs somehow. Now, I don't plan on cutting off these belts or anything, although that'd be a nice quick way of doing it probably. Instead, what I've done is I've taken the train away. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen, I have the recipe for an electric locomotive, right? So the train doesn't exist right now, so there's no iron coming in here. So what I'm going to do is let all the petroleum coke fill up every foundry we have. And once they're all completely full, and all the belts are totally full, then it has nowhere to go. And the heavy oil will then start to fill all the refineries. So once that happens, then I can put the train down and let it flow. So yeah, so the other way of, maybe doing that if you wanted to, you could possibly just put a Mark II pipe coming out of the fluid buffer. And then if you built up the buffer enough to something like, 1,000 or 2,000 heavy oil, then 600 would travel along and would fill the machines pretty quickly. So this is a bit of a strange thing to do. It's probably more elegant to say, like, if we were kickstarting this place again, a Mark II pipe going along here would probably make more sense. But I just thought, we'll just pick up the train. We'll deploy the train. And that's how we can get it going. You could also just power off the train instead of picking it up or something. It's like a soft way of controlling your iron flow into the factory. If there's no iron, then there's no foundry production. No foundry production, then you're backing up heavy oil. Now, we can see rubber and plastic moving upstairs quite nicely. Now, what you'd expect to see is none of the refineries ever stopping. But occasionally, you're going to see the odd yellow light appearing. Now, the reason for that is because heavy oil is getting stuck. So 48.7 here in the inventory. So we'll just drain it. Anytime you see that, just drain it. You only have to ever do this like once, just when we're powering on the factory for the first time. Another way you could do it, it's a little bit more risky. You could actually flush the entire pipe network on the way out. And that's totally fine. Remember, the goal of building up the heavy oil was to force crude oil to get backed up. We don't care about accumulating heavy oil. Not really. We wanted to back up crude oil. So it's fine to flush the outputs. That's totally fine. Don't flush the input. The whole point was to get a crude oil into all of the inventories totally full. Anyway, doing that, one or two machines if they are full, or doing it to the full pipe network on the output side of things, or even just draining a couple of segments, would force the flush to go a bit quicker to get into the fluid buffer. So you could do that. So hopefully that kind of helps explain maybe any of the troubleshooting you might find yourself doing. I think I noticed one or two of the rubber refineries needed it too. Yeah, there's one there that's flickering yellow. The two in the end, I guess it makes sense that it would be happening to those guys as they're struggling to get out. Right, so what have we got stored? Oh my god, I didn't realize that much time passed. Alright, it's been a few minutes, I guess. Alright, time to release the valves. And let them flow into the petroleum coke refineries. This might actually be part of the reason I saw something getting backed up. Alright, we are letting everything flow now into the petroleum coke refineries. So we should see our first burns of the heavy oil residue. And subsequently, the first petroleum coke rolling upstairs into our foundries. Then we're going to deploy our train. In fact, we can deploy it now and get it ready, while we wait for some of the material to start making its way up, as we look to back up these refineries. This is all in service of trying to get all the machines running at 100%, by the way. In case you're wondering why do this. If you don't care about that, then it doesn't really matter. But if you want to get the full amount that you set out to do, then you should care about it. By the way, with this train, some people mentioned that you could build a train that just went forward and back on one line. That's true. You can do that. And I was actually tempted to do that. One of the reasons I didn't, and the reason I built this as simply as I did as well, is because I wanted to show people how to do those 90-degree curves, and I wanted to show people how to build a rail without using any signals, because people struggle with that. So when we build advanced rail in the future, we'll have junctions and signals and all of that. This is just a good baseline to kind of start people off. I know 90% of people know this stuff, but there's a few people that follow along that haven't done this before, so trying to cater to those guys as well. And also have it be evergreen content, as they say, so that you could always look back on this, whether the game's updated or not. Hopefully this still makes sense and still is relevant to how things work. Anyway, so what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so just going to back up. We'll just back up to just around here. And then when we're ready, we'll set the first destination. Does this train have a name? We'll call this the Iron Delivery. The Coke Iron Delivery train. Right. No need to turn on any timetables or anything like that just yet. Alright, from the looks of things, we're looking good. I'm seeing green lights across the board. Tough to see with the way the lighting is and the way I'm jumping around a lot, but we're looking good. Plastic is flowing. I would reckon these are all building up to that 100% number now. There might be the odd little bit of heavy old residue getting stuck here or there. These are starting to get completely filled as well. So 2 petroleum coke groups are totally done. And it's just the one on the end now. So we're waiting for the foundries upstairs basically to get full. That will then backfill these 3 refineries. Once they're done, then we just have to send the train on its way. Basically just waiting this to hit 200, so it takes quite a while, but the volume of petroleum coke that comes out is quite fast. It's 100 per minute, so it doesn't take too long. Gotta change the color of that light. I reckon we send it now, actually, because it looks like it was about to be done. So let's get the ball rolling with the train. We've deployed it. I just need to actually send it on its way, and then soon enough we'll see all of these firing as well. So far, everything's going really well. Beyond 1 or 2 hiccups with belts, this has been pretty smooth. Things seem to be working fine. Alright, so, my train. At the timetable, we want you to go to the Coke Factory outpost, and then back here. Only load once. Yeah, so actually what we could do is say the freight the freight wagon is fully loaded or unloaded, and wait 10 seconds. I don't want you waiting any amount of time. Just wait until really this is loaded. So that's what the and will do. We don't need to say iron. They should know what to do with that. And then for the import, we'll do the opposite, right? Load, unload, and 10 seconds again. Freight wagon is fully loaded or unloaded. Yeah, until it's empty, I guess. Cool. Alright, save the changes. Turn on. And that way, the train will actually only ever move when it needs to. We could follow the journey and see it getting picked up, actually. It'd be nice. Make sure the train doesn't leave without me. So these things, as far as I know, are totally full up of iron. The miners are paused, but now they'll get moving again. Nice and synchronized. Love to see it. It was a little bit jittery, but I managed to make it. Just about. Doesn't feel very safe or stable standing on it like this. Yes, love to see the refineries all green lights. Alright, we're going to jump off for mega speed as we watch the train do its little loop around and unload. Now, the way these boxes work, actually, it's a really complicated thing to say, to mention and talk about. They're actually not going to be super efficient. So the way these work, they're not direct splitters. 2 in and 2 out. Depends on how you're feeding them, but it might actually top load the first belt. But I think it'll all work out the same when it gets backfilled. Anyway, when we can update the belts to Mark 5, it'll be totally fine for sure. But there could be some issues with that. I'm not entirely sure, but there could be. It was while I was editing the last episode I realized, I was like, hang on a second. We had this discussion before about how these aren't splitters. It all depends on how you're filling them. But if we always load full containers, it should be 50-50 going into them and 50-50 coming out, I think. I love when the thing beeps, you can just see everything flowing in. It's cool. But there we go. So now that's going to move in and hopefully combine and get the ball rolling for iron production, right? Allowing these refineries then to empty back out. At least that's the goal. And what we could even do is destroy some of the petroleum coke if we really wanted to, if it's causing an issue, but I don't think it will. I think the volume of goods will get out faster than the liquids do. And the first bits of iron ingots should be rolling out momentarily to be pressed into steel beams and steel pipes. You love to see it. I'm really hoping that these guys don't get backed up now, because they have such high output volume when they go onto these more main buses. So we should be seeing 300. The belt capacity is 480, and we've given them a lot of space between cycles. So I'm hoping that that means that's okay, you know? And that really actually quite well illustrates the point. You can see this is one cycle all coming out, and there's the gap. And then the next cycle begins. You see how slow it is to get stuff out. This is the lesson I learned in the iron factory that we were debating for quite a while. I just couldn't wrap my head around it for so long. Still kind of unsure in some regards, but I guess you just want to give it lots of space to be able to breathe, get everything out, and then, you know, manifold it onto that main bus. If you're doing manifold, that is. Alright, let's go upstairs. Oh yeah, love to see it. So now this is going to be a much longer manifold as we work our way down. So each of these is receiving 30 per minute, or looking to, and then sending their pipes out on a long manifold down, which can reach 400 per minute at top speed. That's going to flow along this way, curl around, and then make its way down now into awesome sinks. So I could give the power to the truck stations, so that way I can actually pull stuff out of their inventories, I suppose, which would make sense. So at least there's something for me to go grab, even if we don't hook the trains up. So that's an easy enough thing to do. So let's just do that. We'll just bring this straight across here. So I suppose an even better way to do it would be to look at this, click, deploy that. That way I didn't have to break any connection, and then we could just bring that straight across, and boom. Now everything should be flowing into the truck stations first, and then into the awesome sinks afterwards. Hang on a second, we've got a Mark 1 somewhere. Yeah. How embarrassing. Glad I spotted that one. It could be the same here, actually. Yep. And what about up on top? They're Mark 4 as well. That's good. Hey, I just noticed something. I've made a grave error. These belts are only Mark 1. We're outputting 100 per minute. That's why they're stopping. I was wondering why these would be stopping. It needs to be Mark 2. And then this is Mark 4. Yeah, that needs to be Mark 4. That's fine. Okay, cool. Oh no, I'm low on reinforced iron plates. Damn it, I'll have to go get some. Right, so I found another little error. I didn't hook up the manifold out of the constructors for the steel beam outputs. I only did the pipes. So that should allow them to flow now properly. I might have to do that upstairs as well, I would imagine. That's better. We're draining them now. We're flushing it out. That's really good. Look at that. So nice. Now that's actually more than it should be, right? Because we are just piling everything we can on while the machines get emptied. But they should be emptied enough soon enough anyway and resume to normal production. It should be 150 on the line, each line. And then 300 on the 480. So you expect to see some gaps. But right now, while it's just still draining, there's no gaps. And we're still waiting on the steel pipes to get all of their ingots and be manifolded all the way down. Oh yeah, there's something weird going on here. I don't know what, I really don't understand this. Mark 4 going all the way up here, not moving. Well, I just saw one go by. How's that happening? The belt doesn't go through. How the hell did that, how did it even get one, you know? Let me just cut that and cut this. Let me just delete some steel. Why is that happening? That's really weird. Okay. So floor hole, it's definitely got steel ingots on it. Let's see now. Well, ain't that bizarre. What the hell is going on there? Is it to do with this weird floor hole I built? And how is any of it going through right now? I don't get that. These machines have had a little bit going in. It just got one. It's like it's getting it through there. I think I've heard of this bug before. I could be misremembering, but it might be something to do with this lift is actually pulling stuff in from the end belt behind it because it's right next to that merger. Oh my god, I think that is what's happening. What a weird one. But I think that is what was just happening there. Oh, so weird. Yeah, let's just get rid of that. Screw that. Yeah, whatever. Give me this. So, I'll just see if this will help. Bring this up to 4 and just go straight through like this. No. Well, goddamn. We've got a bug. We've got a real bug. Like a proper annoying bug. That's really frustrating, actually. Right. Let's see. What if we turned it out to the side? Okay. And then can we do something just... I just want to get this to display what it should. It's not even taking anything from down below. I don't understand. It's like just because it's next to a splitter. Damn. That's annoying as hell. Alright, well, I think I've got it. Here's what we'll do. Although it might be happening down here. Who knows? Let's see. You go out that way. You come up. Okay. And then you can just go into where you're supposed to. Got it. Alright, that's an interesting bug, man. That's a really interesting one. The back of a lift being placed next to a merger. Sorry, a splitter. Is just taking things from the splitter rather than taking things from the floor hole it's on. Weird. Super weird. Anyways, I'm going to go downstairs, grab some of those ingots, and just feed them into the machines to kind of kickstart them now that they've been backed up for so long. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm pretty confident in saying that we are green across the board. Things seem to be looking really good, even for all the refineries. We're all green, 100%ed out of our minds, which is the hardest thing to do for the refineries especially. Now, some of the manifold we're still waiting on for the steel beams and pipes, but for the most part, we're almost fully up and running with those too. So these are the beams here. We can actually see green lights across the board for these guys. So yeah, I've had a few game crashes, so it's delayed me even further. So we need to leave things running just a little bit longer for some of the steel pipe to just finally get their steel ingots. But it's interesting just tracking some of the knock-on effects that you can have. You know, basically I'd noticed that a few missing connections were made on the belts for steel beams. So what that means is then the petroleum coke that was being fed in there would get stopped, which meant that the heavy oil would get backed up, which meant that the refineries below me were getting stopped. Other issues that were happening as well was that if the foundries were stopping, then there was less iron ore being consumed. And because I had that rule on the train saying, like, don't move unless you've unloaded everything, what was happening is a couple of these were getting backed up because there was issues with that group of machines, which caused a knock-on effect. These were working totally fine, but the rule for the train was I don't leave until you've all eaten all your iron. Bad rule to have, right? Because in case of little issues like that. But it's all sorted out now. It was just interesting, you know, tracking it all back and trying to work out what was going wrong with it. But basically just a little bit of negligence on my part, you know. A few missing connections on belts. I mean, actually, that was really it. Just a few missing connections on belts, and that seemed to be what was causing the majority of the slowdown for me. But everything's all up and running now. All of the truck stations are pretty much full up. 9,600 across the board. They're all just feeding into the awesome sinks now. In my time waiting, I've just been painting a few things. And I think on a stream, what I'll probably do is go around and, you know, we'll just troubleshoot things again, but also make a way to getting up and downstairs a little bit better. Paint things, add some lights, talk through the build a little bit more, and just catch up. I haven't streamed in a while. It might be nice if you can stop on by. It's here on YouTube, not on Twitch or anything. And now I've just let the train do whatever it wants to. It just kind of loads and unloads and just goes whenever it can. So that's the easiest way to get it working, I suppose. So that's the way I'm going to let it do it. Otherwise, I'd have to kind of drain each one of these and set it off once more or something. But yeah, for now, it's all good. I don't really mind. Anyway, that's it. So there we go. 800 steel pipe, 600 steel beam, 600 plastic, and 600 rubber per minute, all with stations ready to carry things away. We just need to extend the road network out here, and I might actually do that on that stream, thinking about it, before we inevitably build a transport hub in the future. Had super fun with this build. It was really fun putting it together. just because of the nature of dealing with multiple types of liquids, byproducts, and then all this different stuff you could get out of it, using a byproduct as the primary resource for a lot of your outputs, I thought was quite fun. And then building a little train into it as well and pulling in all of that iron ore. Quite funny seeing in the comments people laughing at me, not knowing that it wasn't really a coal deposit there after all. I saw the humor in it too. Alright, that's going to have to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, if you haven't done it already, make sure you hit subscribe, like the video as well. Share it with friends if you like this series. And now that this 3-part phase is done, you can always share it with people. I've seen a few people on multiplayer servers are actually building my build together using co-op, like working together to recreate and adapt and improve, frankly, some of the things I've built, which is awesome. So you never know, pull a few friends together, show them the videos maybe, helps me out, and then possibly you might even have a good old time learning the game together and building something like this and making it look better. Hope you have an easier time troubleshooting it than I did though. Alright, that's gonna have to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.